It's that time of year again that we get to kick off practice. The rules allow us to sort of pick when we want to. It used to be October 15th was the magical date and number, but now we've sort of gotten a little bit more flexibility in when we can begin practice. Spend a little bit more time with the student athletes even in the summer. So for them, I think if you ask them, they don't know when practice ended and when it started. But we try to make tomorrow a little bit more special in a sense of just kind of talking about goals, having a team meeting where we begin to, sort of process the fact that we play a scrimmage in a month and season kicks off soon. So I thought we had a really good off season. Had some players that I felt like really needed to reestablish themselves, and some youngsters get in here and get their feet wet, and we were able to do that this summer with most of the group here. They were sort of in and out some of the summer, but they all were in at some point, and I thought we established at least what we expected our work ethic to be like between the end of season last year and now to this date.
How is LaShawn and how is her confidence trying to overcome the mental part of that?
Yeah, I think anytime you're recovering from a knee injury, the mental side of that is always the most challenging. For LaShawn, we all know as we've watched her grow throughout the years that she has an enormous passion for the game, and she's what most of us would just define as a gym rat. So she spent the adequate amount of time that it takes to make sure that her skill level stayed the same. It's just really now at this point a matter of trusting herself, trusting the knee, and getting to a point where she's in the type of conditioning that she's accustomed to being in. And some of that, to be honest with you, is just playing what we call game shape, basketball shape, because she's done a tremendous amount of work on the knee and to make sure that it's healthy and she's ready to go. But now it's sort of just getting used to I'm out of breath and I'm going really hard, and how do I reset and get myself back to where I used to be, and that takes playing. I think now we're at this pace with her where she just needs to practice.
Is she physically 100%?
She's good. She's 100%. She looks great.
How would you describe the challenge your team faces in the front court?
I think, if you look on paper, we have a depth issue. There's no question, but one of our most successful teams we've had since I've been here, we had Bree Taylor at 5'10" at the 4. So I think competitiveness is more of a factor than size. I like to defend. I like to run, and I think that we have some post players that are able to do that. You always start to think about what ifs of foul trouble, fatigue, those types of issues. But we have some small forwards in Jada Underwood and Audrey Warren that played the 4 at times for us last year, and I definitely think that they can plug in for us and help us be successful.
And we look for Collier to do more.
Oh, for sure.
Great her game. What do you expect from her?
I think Charlie is a very talented basketball player, as we all could see last year. It was just a matter of gaining confidence and getting game reps. That's going to be forced upon her. Whether we thought we were ready or she's ready or whatever, it's going to happen. And she's put herself in a position that I think she's more than ready to take on that responsibility. Charlie's different. She's different than a lot of post players we've had in a sense of, I guess if you had to compare, you would look at the game that Kelsey, the type of game Kelsey played for us, where she could stretch the floor a little bit and pick and pop, and Charlie can definitely do that. I think she's physically stronger and more confident than she was last year, which is going to bode well for her.
Karen, I saw on your website this summer Joyner won an outside shooting competition, and I ran into her at Chewy's over the summer, and she said the jumpers are falling. How much work has she been putting in that area?
Joyner's put in a lot of work, and I think sometimes the best thing you can do with some players is let them and their work sort of speak for itself in a sense of, there's no question that she's put in the time, and there's times when I think perimeter shooting is a good option for Joyner, but she's definitely at a place where I think she understands that she needs to establish herself in the paint first. I think she's maybe changed her mentality a little bit this summer. But again, I think she's got to get out there and establish herself in the games when we start to play. And she's trying to do that in practice every day. The thing I'm probably most excited about is I think she's in good shape. I think she's in a place where she's been with us for an extended amount of time, which was always a little bit of a drawback for Joyner. She was either with someone else or had a stint at home, and she's been here for a long time. She's been here all summer. She never took any time off, and I think she's established herself from a leadership standpoint, which is a great thing for Joyner and for our team.
Speaking of perimeter shooting, how do you expect to replace the production of Danny and Destiny?
I think it's collective. I mean, there's no question that we have some newcomers that will contribute heavily to our team. I think that the players that return understood that they were going to step in some shoes, and there was going to be a necessity for more perimeter shooting from players like Joanne Taylor. I think that Audrey Warren's improved dramatically. I think all of our sophomores really they took the natural step from being a freshman to a sophomore. They're more mature, they're more confident, they're in better condition, and they've worked on their weaknesses. So I would say all of them are remarkably improved. But you also look at a Shug Sutton who, through USA trials or just the experiences that she had last year, she has a chance to really look at what does she need to do for our team. And I would say perimeter shooting would be a start for Shug, and she worked on that all spring and all summer. And then you have the additions of the two freshmen that I definitely think can stretch the floor for us, and Izzy and Celeste Taylor.
Will you guys have charisma available this winter?
I don't know the answer to that for sure.
Of the newcomers that you do know you'll have access to, which ones do you expect to step up this year?
I think the most obvious newcomer right now that would be hard to say she's not going to be a huge factor on our team is Celeste Taylor. She's established herself very early to be a player that will contribute to our team. I think every freshman has ebb and flow to their adjustment, but she's as well adjusted as any freshman that I've probably ever coached.
Karen, one of the most interesting off-season things that happened, I thought, was the hiring of Terry, and just his women's experience, but yet and now he's got NBA experience. How has he worked fitting in with the mix and working with Joyner and Charlie and all them?
Terry was a very remarkable hire for the timing of when I had the opening. There's not really a great time to ever lose a Tiffany Jackson off your staff and someone that could contribute the way that she did, but to have that happen in August was an uneasy feeling, but the timing of Terry being available was a godsend for us because I think he's a professional. It's the best way I know to put it. He's been through the women's game. He's been in our league with Bonnie at Kansas and then spent some time at Maryland. I'm not sure he probably learned quite a bit at Cleveland last year, but I'm not sure we're going to do what Tristan did. But he just has, I'm not sure we're going to dunk on anybody, but I definitely think he has a world of experience and maturity about himself. He knows how to get in and get it done. And I think that he just sort of picked up where Tiffany had left off from the training that she was doing with them this summer. I had seen a really remarkable amount of improvement in our bigs this summer just from her getting in the gym and doing a lot of one-on-one work, and he's really carried that on very, very smoothly. It's been a very, very good transition.
Why didn't Tiffany work out? What was the issue there?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing for Tiff was the recognition that she's got a son, that she's a single mom, and as much as she loves the University of Texas, and she absolutely poured into our program what she had, but it was kind of a decision to make about where do I go next in life, and that's something I think when she departed from the WNBA, this was a natural step for her. And then I think just the realization of how much time that it took away from her son, Marley, and he is her number one priority. So I think it was just, there's never a good time, but I appreciate the fact that she recognized it and could help us move forward.
What about Andrea coming in as strength and conditioning coach? What do you see her impact as being?
I think the most beneficial part about Andrea coming is just, I mean, not aside from her wealth of knowledge and experience in the Big 12 and how successful she's been, I think her relationship with the fact that she had mentored Zach, my strength coach, at KU prior to his hiring here, made that very smooth for us because they had worked together and they have a similar philosophy. So now you have very similar philosophies in the weight room, regardless of who's lifting and what they're doing. And aside from that, I think it's fantastic that you have a female role model in that area. It's amazing to me that more women have not ventured into that department. It's I mean, for basketball players, that sort of seems natural, but you don't see a lot of women in the profession, and I think it is unbelievable to have someone like Andrea that, I mean, previously worked with UConn women. And I mean, she's got some knowledge, and I would say she's E.F. Hutton, if anybody knows who that is. Probably not, but I can tell you that when she speaks, they listen.
Zach is still your guy.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, she's working with the men, but her presence is felt every day, and she may, be in there working on something, and if Zach's lifting our girls, I mean, if she sees something that needs to be tweaked or wants to make a comment, she's most certainly going to do that. And I think more than anything, they're working together for Texas basketball, regardless of what gender it is, and I think that's awesome.
Coach, can you talk about your segmenting of your practices this year? I mean, obviously you got the next month to get ready for your exhibition, then you get into to a preseason or pre-conference schedule. I mean, do you look at it that way? Do you take it step by step, or how do you do it?
For sure, I think you do take the segments of practice, even to the point that we were here all summer, and I've learned a little bit about kind of how to even manage that a little differently, just because they're training year-round now, and you have to be a little bit cautious of maybe the overkill of the training. So I think we just went through a strong phase of conditioning and lifting and really preparation for practice, and then you start to roll into practice now, which is preparation for non-conference. So there's definitely segments. There'll be a different feel in the air tomorrow when they put on their new practice uniforms, and there's a little bit more of a pep in their step as far as understanding that we're a month away from a scrimmage. And then quickly you play. I mean, it goes pretty quickly after you start this first initial practice.
In that same vein, can you talk about your pre-conference schedule a little bit, how you set it up to be ready for the conference?
Well, I think we always want to be as competitive as we can be in non-conference, because you're trying to not only help yourself RPI-wise and strength of schedule, but you're also trying to prepare for the rigors of the Big 12. And so much of that is being able to go on the road and being able to put your team in some adversity so that they can handle that once they get into Big 12 play. And I think right out of the gates we go to South Florida, which on paper, I mean, maybe to the average fan, they wouldn't think that's a very competitive game, or if they don't really study women's basketball, but they're a very competitive program that will test us very quickly on their home court. So I think we start off with them, and then I think the trip to Hawaii will be great for our kids in so many ways, but mostly opening up with NC State and then playing 3 games in 3 days, I think, is the most significant thing there. You get a really good feel once you get out of a Thanksgiving tournament like that. Where is your conditioning? What are some things that you really need to work on because you're playing different styles, and the turnaround is really quick. You almost get a feel on how quickly your kids can adjust to things. And then the obvious game with Tennessee that we look forward to every year. We circle it on the calendar every year. It's never a game that doesn't mean anything to our fans or our players. And then I think bringing Stanford here on our home court with a team that I think most people would say is a Final Four contender should be fantastic for our fans. That's right before Christmas.
Leadership-wise, who do you expect to step up and who do you need to step up on your team?
Well, I expect the 4 seniors. I mean, you have a fifth-year senior in LaShawn Higgs who understands everything about what we're trying to get accomplished. LaShawn's quiet sometimes, and I think just coming off of the injury, I don't know that she'll be as vocal as we'd like for her to be, but I think as she progresses, she'll remember what she needs to be saying. But I think more than anything, LaShawn leads by example and how much passion she plays the game with. And then you look to Jada Underwood, who I thought really came on at the end of last year, and unfortunate that she got hurt in the Big 12 tournament because probably played her best game and got hurt in it and didn't play the rest of the year. And then you look at Shug and Joyner, who are returning starters, that very obviously have to be the leaders of our team. But the interesting thing about our leadership that I think we've established this summer is just that it needs to be collective. We don't need to put it on one class or one person. And I think that our team has bought into that. Our freshmen are very strong personalities with great work ethic and great talent. So not leaving anybody out of that responsibility really will be a better option for us. But if you look, I mean, our senior class needs to lead our team.
How has it sat with you, the disappointment of the way last season ended and the loss of Sedona? Does that hurt the perception of your program in any way?
I wouldn't say the perception of the program has been hurt. I think it's more about what our standard is and what we expect of ourselves. And I've said this many times that the thing that was disappointing. I mean, there are a lot of people that would be happy with what we did last year. But there's a standard here at Texas, and more importantly, we have our own standard within our program. And I think what was the most disappointing to me, and I think you guys that have watched us play throughout the years would agree with this, we just didn't play like Texas. And we focused more on that than we have about what people think of us, is what do we think of ourselves and what do we expect of ourselves. And the one thing that I think people really enjoy is how my girls play the game and how we project as far as competitiveness and passion. And I'm not sure our team displayed that last year with me being in the lead of that. But I guess if you coach long enough or you play long enough, you're going to have at some point a time when you just don't perform very well. And again, a lot of people would be okay with that, but we're not. And we've trained and talked like a team that wants to be better and represent Texas better. I think that's really a big focus of mine, is representing Texas. And maybe, if you worry more about that than you do about yourself, then you'll be better off.
Speaking of representing Texas, how about that Ariel
I was
Atkins?
just getting ready to say, was anybody going to ask me about Ariel?
Wow, Coach.
I have to tell you that I was out of town recruiting yesterday, and my phone was blowing up about how Ariel played yesterday, and I did record it, but got in late, and I had an early morning this morning with a mile run, so I'm going to go back home and catch it. But I saw clips and the first quarter of it, and it was she was fantastic yesterday. But I had people ask me about that. Does it surprise you? I think maybe she had struggled maybe in the first series against against Vegas, but nothing surprises me about Ariel. I mean, you guys watched her, and she's the ultimate pro, and was the day she walked on this campus. And she deserves everything she gets. I hope she gets herself a championship.
The way her season's going, she came out pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been a steady climb.
Oh, absolutely.
All year. It wasn't like this is an overnight thing, and she's playing well. I mean, she's been building.
No. I mean, she obviously had a great rookie season last year, and I think she probably experienced that first year that you go overseas and you have the experiences of overseas and you're playing full time. And I think she she's probably learned a lot about how to take care of your body on your own and how to manage yourself. But she is blessed to be in an unbelievable organization that is full of pros that really know how to handle their business. I mean, she's playing with the MVP of the league, and I think that Ariel's the type that she's a sponge, and couldn't have landed in a better place, and she's thriving there.
You point her out to LaShawn and Shug and
I don't have to.
see what hard work does.
I do not have to. I mean, I tell you, Ariel is so looked upon with our team as exactly what she is, which is a role model for all of our players. That it's not they pay attention. There's no question about it. I mean, they pay attention to Brooke and Imani, and but Ariel just she has stayed in touch with a lot of them, and I think she has lots of words of wisdom for them.
How'd your Australia pipeline get started here?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that you have to give a lot of credit to Jamie. I mean, when we go to these international events, which we've been fortunate enough to recruit players that play in world championships, then you see the other teams. And we saw some of them, and then Jamie did the work to follow up and actually has gone over there a couple of times and built some relationships with the COE, and I think the really cool thing about developing that relationship is that it's a natural invitation as far as what those types of players, they're looking for a city that is nice and diverse, and I think they're looking for a campus that's diverse, and I think they're also looking for a great education and a great basketball team. So Austin, the University of Texas, and our team has a lot to offer as far as that's concerned, and so I think it's been something that has really been a good match.
They take official visits? Or is
They
that
do.
behind the scenes?
No. They take official visits. It's interesting how they do it. They come to the States, and they usually do their research and develop the relationships with 3 or 4 schools, and then they go on all of them in one stretch.
You know where yours looked at?
Ashley looked at Iowa State. Ashley Hannon looked. They have specifics that they study, and style of play. They're very direct with how they handle the business, and a little bit more business-like than the States. She looked at Northwestern. Izzy is from originally. She has a family member in Tampa, so she looked at South Florida, which is interesting that we're going to play there. And she has a grandparent in South Florida. Actually, they're both dual citizens. And then we've been fortunate enough to have a couple of others interested in the process of having those here. So it's been a good
And real quick, how
Good
would you
fit.
describe Izzy's game?
Izzy is, I would describe her as a combo guard. I mean, I think she's going to be able to back up the one some for us, but I think she's a shooting guard that has a high IQ and extremely good leadership skills. And Ashley's a 4-5 that can stretch the floor some, but again, I think both of these players have a wealth of international experience, so their IQ is very high, and their work ethic, just from being in the environment that they're in at the COE, their work ethic is pretty sound. Really good fit for our program.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.